Welcome back to another episode of Swoop's Standouts, this time versing Hawthorn. Let's get into it. Before we get into it, be on the lookout for some longer form YouTube videos coming out this week. A bit more of the AFL 26 player career as well, and just my usual stuff. I can't speak right now, and training is on Tuesday, so of course I'll be there especially watching the mid-season draft picks get around it. Now, let's go into my top 5 players against Hawthorn. Now, like I said in my review of the game, this game was pretty even throughout, which I absolutely really liked. There wasn't really any guys that weren't performing as well as they should have. Everyone was doing their role really well. It was hard to narrow it down to 5 players, though. You'll probably guess who my number 1 player is. Remember, these are my opinion. You guys can have a different one. But starting at number 5, I've got Scott Pendlebury. 23 pressure acts, 8 tackles. Pendles was back to his Pendlebury best. Like 8 tackles for a guy that's 37 years old. What do you have? 7 scorer involvements, 22 disposals, 200 and nearly 50 meters gained. This is what happens when you give the best players a rest. We saw it. I know he wasn't managed last week. It was because he was out with gastro. But he comes back and absolutely smashes it. You'll see, Steel Sidebottom feature in this as well, who did another really good job. But Scott Pendlebury, giving him rest maybe not every few weeks, but throughout the season is just going to give his career more longevity. And that's what we want. And we want these guys peaking towards the end of the year. But I thought his return game was absolutely phenomenal. Number 4, I've got Ned Long. This guy just keeps going from good to better to best to GOAT every single week. Another 11 tackle performance, 25 pressure acts, 10 score involvements. Of his 24 disposals, nearly half of them were contested possession. And this is the guy that's keeping Tom Mitchell out the team. I know we talk about it all the time. Can they both be in the same team? Does it have to be one or the other? But Ned Long, we're doing what we're doing now, and I know little bits and pieces is fine as well, but we're doing what we're doing now because Ned Long is in the middle, and we finally have that wombat or that bull back into the middle of the ground. Without Jordan De Goey, without Tom Mitchell, we really struggled last year, and I know Ned Long played games last year, but this year, he's finally found himself and finally found what he can do for this team, and we are just going places because Ned Long is just a bull out of that middle. My third best on, I've got Brody Machek. 4 goals, 1. And this guy, we picked him up as a rookie, and he was a premiership player with Port Melbourne as a defender, as a fullback. And all year, people have been saying, or maybe at the start of the year, maybe not all year, put him full back, do this, put him in the back. Like, why would you take out someone who's could kick 40 to 50 goals and put him in the back line because, Reef goes down or no Nathan Murphy? Like, this guy, his bread and butter is in the forward line. And look at that. 4 goals, worked really well in tandem with Jamie Elliot, the other forwards. And he even had to chop out in the ruck a little bit because we didn't have a Mason Cox. We didn't have a real second ruckman. So it was him, Membry, and Billy Frampton doing a little bit of the ruck to help out Darcy Cameron. So my third best on ground is Brody Machek. At number 2, I've got Nick Daicos. I thought Nick Daicos wasn't probably, his most stunning game visually, but he's getting those 1-2s and weaving through the Hawthorn traffic. And you got to remember that Hawthorn are probably one of the only teams that can really lock him down. And they chose to put Finn McGuinness onto, as the sub. And they didn't really have a proper run with player to go with Nick Daicos. And, 30 plus disposals, nearly 500 meters gained, 1 contested mark, finally. So what are they going to say now that he hasn't got a bloody hit out? But I thought this was one of Nick's games where it's hard for me to say, he was going under the radar, but under the radar in the sense that he was doing things that weren't super Nick Daicos flashy, but were Collingwood flashy, and it really helped the team. This was more of a team Nick Daicos performance than an individual Nick Daicos performance. I don't think he even gets 3 or 2 votes in the Brownlow, maybe a oneer, if that. But I thought that this was one of his better games for the season. You can see that fluidity that he has when he doesn't have that tag just hanging off him at every single contest. Now, I'm going to do something that I haven't done on Swoop Standouts before. My number 1 player is Steel Sidebottom and Jamie Elliot. I could not split them. Steel side bottom, kind of like Scott Pendlebury, this is what happens when you give the veterans a rest. What did he have? Like nearly 600 meters gained, 4 bounces on the wing, getting chased by Jack Ginnivan, who should have been, outrunning him because he's so much younger than him. What did he have? Five tackles, a couple of clearances. This was vintage Steel. Uncle still has it. And 2 goals. 2 goals from 50. That one goal that he kicked when Dan Houston marked the ball, they didn't call it 15 meters, off one kick from about 48 meters out, was incredible. And that one near the boundary as well. Could have had 3, but he went for glory on that last one. But I thought this was a vintage Steel side bottom performance, and these are the performances that saw him, win, or come second in the Brownlow in 2018, and that Gary Ayres medal for best finals player in 2018. This is the vintage Steel. He is back with a vengeance, and of course, Jamie Elliott, 5 goals. As I'm recording this, he is equal first for the Coleman medal, so you cannot go past Jamie and what he's been able to do. He's at 33 goals. He's 6 goals away from equaling his career best tally, which was in 2023. So I don't know if that's a good omen or not. He never kicked 40 goals in a year. He's probably going to get to 50 goals, an All-Australian jacket coming. I just could not split these two. Now, Dan Houston, this is probably one of his best games for the club, if not his best game for the club. I just thought he's really found his feet now at half-back. It's letting Josh Daicos do what he wants, and, Josh is just getting, ball on ball, and just becoming that offensive half-back flanker that we know he can be. Isaac Quaynor is back to some of his best football as well, but I thought that this was Dan Houston's best game for the club, and you can see why we spent that first-round draft pick on him, and why we went all out for him when we heard that he can come in and help this team out, and he wanted to play for us. And I think the decision he might not be All-Australian, and he's playing a different role to what he was playing at Port Adelaide, but I think he is so important to the team. Him and Harry Perryman, as long as, Tim Member as well, but him and Harry Perryman have been amazing acquisitions. And like I said, when Braden Maynard went down, it kind of nullifies any sort of injury that we have in the back line because these guys can step up. And yeah, I thought Dan Houston had the best game for Collingwood, or his best game for Collingwood. A couple of players I wanted to mention as well. Bo McCreary, when he's playing minutes through the midfield, I thought he looked really, really good. I was playing on Jai Newcomb, and Jai Newcomb, you could see, was getting clearly frustrated with not being able to shake McCreary. And that's why I love, McCreary might not be 100% midfield time, but if he can split his time up, which they're doing every couple of quarters or so, he gives you that, not only that speed and that run and the breaking of the lines like he did against the Kangaroos, but when you put him in the middle like we did against Hawthorn, it just gives you another bit of dynamicism. That I don't even know if that's a word. Bit more dynamics in that middle. Billy Frampton, All-Australian defender incoming. I just love what Billy Frampton has been doing. Isaac Quaynor, I mentioned a little bit before. I'm trying to see my notes here. Lockie Schultz was giving us what he could until that hamstring. Ed Allen. I know I said last week, look, he did really well and that was his best game for the club, but just defensively, he could tighten up a little bit. I thought he played absolutely great, and he did tighten up defensively. What did he have? Oh, only 2 tackles, like compared to his 8. But if you go look at his 8 tackles from last week, they were barely tackles, and I don't know how Champion Data do their sort of data, but I thought, from where I was sitting anyway, from what I was watching, he wasn't as far back from the players and letting them run around him like he was last week. It looks like he has tightened that up a little bit. Can do it a little bit better, and then if he can just fix that bit of his game, he is just going to not be able to get out of this team. Like, it's going to take some godlike player in the VFL to kick Ed Allen off that wing, because him on the wing, Lipinski as that high half forward rotating through that wing position, I think works really well. And like I said at the start of the year, Ed Allen will be best 23 by the end of the year, and he's best 23 now. But again, there's not even anyone that I would say, they didn't have that good of a game. I thought everyone across the board played their role really well. Will Hoskin-Elliott played his role really well. Lipinski before that concussion. But everyone did fantastic. Darcy Cameron on Meek. But yeah, those are my Swoops, standouts, and honourable mentions for this game against Hawthorn. Let me know your 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 down the bottom. Until then, like, comment, subscribe, tell your family, tell your friends, tell your pets, and until next time, Shackers, I'll swoop you later.